Good morning. I'm Janie Parrish with the Wadsworth Area Chamber of Commerce, and you're zooming into business on the other side of the Wadsworth Square, right into our famous Wadsworth Public Library. And this morning, we're with Daniel Slife, who's the director of the Wadsworth Public Library. So good morning, Daniel.
Good morning, Janie. Thank you for having me.
Oh gosh, we always enjoy talking to you and learning more and more about the library. So first of all, Daniel, can you just give me kind of a quick overview about the library? What's going on at the library?
Yeah, sure. It's been a busy year at the library. We finished out a really strong season of summer reading. We had over 1,300 participants ages birth up till 18 participate in our programming and reading. And over that period, we also had 4,200 attendees at our programs for kids over that short period of a couple months here that runs from the end of May through the end of August, or I'm sorry, through the end of July. That's always the highlight of the year for us. Our staff work really hard to prepare for that because that really kind of gets at the heart of our mission, which is to start with our youngest citizens, our youngest neighbors, and to work as hard as we can to instill a love of reading and lifelong learning in them. And that summer reading program really epitomizes what we try to do all year long, which is to create a kind of social celebratory atmosphere around reading and storytelling and sharing. And summer reading, it just goes up, to the highest possible level with program presenters, which we brought back for the first time this year. And that kind of extra icing on the cake is made possible by the generous support of the Friends of the Library, who have been just so successful over the last few years, and they're real champions in my book. They were one of the first Friends groups to get back to normal in a safe way when other Friends groups were, I think, struggling a bit given the challenges. They doubled down and got it done, and they've been raising extra funds for the library. Most of that comes through donations of books. Some of it through reselling of books that are decommissioned from the library, but the vast majority from just significant donations from generous folks in Wadsworth. And so they do that work to help us out, and that aids the programming. And so with their help, we had a really successful summer reading season. But before that, we were working on some changes that were made possible by the Library Foundation. We have an early literacy interactive play area on our second floor, which was expanded through the generous support of the foundation here earlier this year. It opened up in March. And the whole point of that area is to have a kind of counterbalance or a ballast to so much digital interaction. Educators are talking about the challenge of balancing screen time and tactile learning. And it's a really important issue that we believe in playing a role in here. And through that early literacy play area, kids and parents and caregivers, grandparents can interact in a physical, hands-on way that critically connects and helps to integrate both hemispheres of the brain in the learning process by being tactile, by being physically present. And we were able to expand that with that generous support. And now we have a large magnetic wall with a ball run that allows kids to use their engineering left hemisphere side of their brain to kind of problem solve and do it in a hands-on way, and expanded the other areas that are for more early literacy, younger patrons at the library. So all that's been happening this year, while we've also been working on migrating the library's catalog to a new 21st century catalog that will be a better ultimate experience once we get all the kinks out, and we're working on that now for our patrons on the other side of that migration. And that began in August. So we've just had a lot happening here and doing our best to improve the library and keep moving forward for our public.
Daniel, when at our home, when we received the library newsletter, both my husband and I read it cover to cover because we're so amazed at the things that you can offer. And my grandson and I have came to various programs, and we always walk away and from the newsletter, from the library programs, and go, wow. So really, I can't even thank you enough for all that you and your team do. to make Wadsworth such a great place. I remember learning that you can tell a lot by the community by its library. You know, how important is the library is that's how important to the community. So I love that we have such a strong library.
Absolutely. We're blessed to have that support from the community, and that's what really the library is a reflection. It is a mirror. And I see it in our schools and our city services and in the chamber. We just have such a strong sense of civic pride and I think a small town yet big enough kind of situation to keep things interesting, and also to, I think, generate a lot of support for things that matter to everybody. Um,
Mhm.
in addition to in addition to these changes, we're also looking at improvements. The building now, it's hard to believe, the newest section of this building, which you don't count the minor expansion in the children's area in 2017, the biggest structural change is now 20 years old. And we have sections of the building from 87 and the 60s, and going back to the 50s. And keeping that going, keeping that fresh is an ongoing investment and challenge. But this year we'll be doing some improvements there, rearranging some of the service desks on our first floor, replacing the carpet, repainting, new furnishings. All of that will be coming this fall, and I think will really make a big impact on the feel of the library and our ability to just keep things exciting for folks. And one of the changes that I'm particularly looking forward to is in the area that used to be occupied by our computers in the front of the building. We're going to have a series of mobile shelving displays, and we're kind of creating a forest for foraging for different interesting things. And the staff are going to have a lot of fun, I think, experimenting with setting up new displays and just doing things a little bit differently to help to be one of those counteracting forces in another challenging trend in our time, which is that information bubble that's coming to us through those devices that are a blessing and a curse. We're constantly, being narrowed to a market niche and to what can be predicted about what we'll like or what we care about or what would be interesting to us. And that's the opposite of serendipity, which is the thing that happens in the real world when people interact organically with each other and with their environment. That we can be a force to kind of create a place for curiosity and roving and exploration where people might be surprised. And that's one of the benefits of the physical library stack that you will never get through a digital. As great as the digital is, and we're happy to be a provider of it, it will always be a part moving forward of what we do, obviously, and maybe increasingly important one. But there's something about that physical experience that people love that. They love that connection, and they find things that they wouldn't expect to find. So we're excited about that, new ways to experiment with that part of the library service. And people often ask, well, are people still borrowing books? Are they still borrowing AV? And the fact of the matter is, by the end of the month, August, we circulated over 250,000 items. We serve a district of less than 30,000 people. So more than our per capita population. But then when you look at that in terms of the amount of money that folks save by the library purchasing those things, it's over $3.5 million that the community saved. That's more than our annual operating budget, just by the circulating items that we have lent this year up until the end of August. And so that part of reinvesting in the collections, keeping them fresh, and working with our team to stay up on the current trends and also find things that people might not expect to find is a really vital part of what we do. And you can see that in the circulation numbers as well.
And you're not only reinvesting in the library, you're reinvesting in the community.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's so important. Yeah. Hey, there's two things I wanted to ask you about. And one is tell us about the candidates forum coming up.
Absolutely. In partnership with the Chamber of Commerce, we're going to have 30th annual candidates forum here at OJ Work Auditorium next Monday. That's October. I'm wanting to go back in time. October 10th, 6:30 p.m. And we did it last year at the Performing Arts Center at the high school. And we really liked having the space. The candidates appreciated having more space. We spread out on the stage and had a podium. So we're going to do the same thing right across the street here at OJ Work. And it's a great opportunity for people who are directly serving us in the community to come and tell us what they're about, what motivates them to do this very difficult thing of serving public office, and gives voters an opportunity to ask questions. It's a forum style event, so it is not a debate. And we'll be soliciting questions from the audience, and staff will come around and collect those, and we'll make sure that we focus on the office in those questions, not about the people, but about the position and how folks aspire to perform in the office and what their vision for the office is. It's something we look forward to every year, and we're excited to do it again for the second year in a row in partnership with the Chamber.
And I so appreciate that. I know a lot of times you're looking at things politically, the things that have been put out there, and you're just not quite sure in which direction you want to go. And so to actually see the candidates, listen to them, and people ask questions of things that you probably didn't even think to ask. So I really appreciate that. And you're the moderator.
That's
yeah.
correct.
So I don't know if you get a big button that says moderator, but I think we'll know that it's you.
I think usually you would have a gavel, but we don't need one because it's such a civil, it's just such a good event that we don't need to have a gavel or a bell or the candy striped cane. None of those tools are necessary.
Okay, we won't even look for them then. But also the last thing that I wanted to ask you about, Daniel, is I know the library has an upcoming levy. I have two questions to ask you to keep it very simple and not get into the weeds with anything. First of all, tell me how much money this will raise for the library with your levy that you're putting on in November.
Sure, and if I could give you a little background. This levy was initially passed as 1 mil in 2012, and that was in response to cuts from the state that happened actually in 2009. So the library weathered through a few years before making that ask in 2012. It was eventually passed as a 1 mil levy, 5-year term. It was renewed again by the public in 2016. And we are asking to renew, or actually, I should not say we're asking, the library has this ballot up for consideration on this November 8th ballot. So it's a 1 mil, 5-year operating levy. The effective millage has gone down a bit because the valuation of the district is increased through property values rising and new development. But right now, it's in the most basic terms, which is what you asked me for, and I didn't give to you, is that up for every $100,000 of appraised value, it's about $27.96 a year, and that will raises approximately $700,000 or 24% of the library's annual operating budget.
Nice. And you can buy a book on Amazon for $30, or you can support, I don't know, just the way that I think, but you could buy a hardback book on Amazon or at Barnes and Nobles or wherever you buy your books, and it truly can be right around $30. So you're asking for the entire year for under 28. So
per 100,000 evaluation.
Yes. So, yeah, so that's truly, truly amazing. So we appreciate all that you and the staff do at the Wadsworth Public Library, Daniel. And I know one of the highlights in my life has been for my grandsons is when Weston reached 1,000 books before kindergarten, and he still talks about it. And so that was a red letter day, and it was a goal. And whether or not I just have to believe that there was a correlation between the two, because he's an avid reader now. And so I just feel that reading those 1,000 books, and of course, we were reading them to him, and it was so exciting for him to every month to have where you would scratch off the the number of your books, and he was so excited to do that. So thank you for that program, because you have so many programs that are just terrific. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Janie.
Oh boy, that is a highlight. That's for
what we
sure.
like to hear when, our job is to support the cultivation of lifelong learners. And there's something about reading that, and especially when you do it on a book and you have no distraction, that I think is so powerful and even sacred that, and I use this example often. If you have 10 kids read the Harry Potter books, you never saw the movies. 10 different worlds will come into being. And those worlds are the sprouting of the seeds of their imagination, which are unique to them. And something happens when you read that I don't think happens in the same way anywhere else. And so it's so important for us to be able to support that cultivation of imagination, because it's part of how we cultivate the sense of possibility in an increasingly challenging world that we live in. We need imagination, we need creativity, we need a sense of possibility, and reading helps to cultivate that. Many other things do, but reading does it in a very unique way, a very visceral way. And I'm just happy to be a part of that, and to be working with important community organizations like the Chamber to make sure that Wadsworth is a thriving place, a great place to live and raise a family and retire and, to spend your whole life.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Daniel. I appreciate all that you do. The community appreciates all that you do. And we'll be looking forward to the candidates forum. I'm always excited about that. I think that's just so wonderful that you continue that tradition. So we will be talking with you soon, and I'll be the one winking at you in the audience during the candidates forum.
Thank you, Janie.
Oh, thank you so much, Daniel, and we'll see you soon.
All right. Bye-bye.